Hello, my lovelies. I'm Jenny Ove, the author with no last name, and I'm also a sometime peer reviewer, fashion designer, and game dev. Today, I'm going to take some MMORPG or streamer discussion and apply it to Star Stable Online and how Star Stable's problems are the industry problems taken to the extremes, mostly revolving, but not limited to the cash shop. Mostly after watching Asmongold's video, Amazon roasted by Ashes of Creation for MMO Cash Shop, he said some things in the video I found to be really important, and I want to expound on them in reference to Star Stable Online. And I'll be bringing up another MMORPG or streamer's video to back up the points, one Josh Strife hates. For those of you unaware, Star Stable Online is a massive multiplayer online non-combat single-player horse game targeted at the 8 to 18-year-old female demographic. Yes, lots of players in one world playing a single-player railroaded story they don't need to group up with to complete. Note, I don't call it an RPG because it has no RPG mechanics. There are no professions, classes, factions, or even a dedicated stat system that is customizable and makes any sense. There are no skills, skill trees, or even a magic system. There is also no housing or way to customize the color of, say, your clothes. Crafting is fetch, quest, grind, and mounts are pretty cosmetics that don't provide any substantial advantage to gameplay. Why play? This is the only open world horse game of any size. There is literally nothing else. Okay, here is my usual disclaimer. There will be spoilers for Star Stable and Starshine Legacy ahead. None of what I'm going to address is the game dev's fault. They are not in charge of making decisions about things such as game software like the engine or the update schedule. Please do not harass the game devs. This isn't the ambassador's fault. They are free PR mouthpieces for SSO. Please do not harass the ambassadors. And if you don't like my opinions, just please play nice in the comments because once again, SSO's fanbase is mostly made up of children and teenagers. Okay. Star Stable is not being successful by any definition outside of the fact, well, they are somehow making money. And why is that? Well, Asmongold also has the answer. At 7 minutes 35 seconds, Asmongold asks and answers himself, do you know what breeds success and breeds perfection? It's competition. If you have no competition, your product will get lazier and it will get shitty the more and longer you spend without competing with somebody else. ... One of the good things of our system is somebody comes in and makes a better game than you, other people play it, and everybody else has to adapt to that. Star Stable has no competition. I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. There is no Guild Wars to the World of Warcraft here. There is no RuneScape to the EverQuest. 2. There is no Final Fantasy XI or later 14 to challenge Star Stable's throne. So they have gotten lazy. I'm going to skip over to Josh Strife Hayes' video about MMO Deadly Sins, Sloth. I do recommend watching the video in its entirety. There was a list of things Josh attributed to game dev laziness. Now, I'm going to put in here a moment. In Star Stable's case, we know from the game devs on Glassdoor and those who've spoken out on YouTube and what they've said, it is not the game dev's fault. It is 100% on the shoulders of the higher-ups and management why Star Stable is doing what it is doing. Higher-ups have chosen to ignore the problems with the game engine and code and have created this update schedule that emphasizes palette swap horses over everything else. The game devs want to put in mechanics to make the game fun and challenging, and they can't due to technology issues which are on the higher-ups. The game dev employees can't suddenly decide to rebuild the game engine without permission. Okay? Good. So the list reads, palette swapping objects, and by that he explained it was taking one object like an enemy or a weapon, changing the colors and calling it something new. In our case it'd be horses, and the clothes, and the saddles, etc. Uninspired journey through predictable places. Medieval Tudor England in a forest. Anyone at all. Numerical increase without mechanical change. And time gating, by which he means throttling with day clocks and grind. So, reputation levels. Star Stable is guilty of every single one of these lazy game mechanics, and I'm not sure which is the worst right now. Instead of building systems, like many other games, where you buy an object and then take dye to that object, or say go to a horse stylist and change the color or patterns of that object, every single object in Star Stable Online is locked and baked. You cannot even change your character outside of changing some minor hair and makeup styles. Character creation is so old style, it's a joke. You've got 12 faces locked to 12 different skin tones. The appearance change update actually broke some of the makeup selections you can buy in the shop, and the hair is so static it clips through your shoulders a lot of the time. And the hairstyle will cost different premium currency prices for different colors. Yes, the same hair in different colors might cost 25 or 85 currency depending on what color it is. Yes, it makes no sense. It makes sense if there was dye and dye had job scarcity, but there isn't. So there's no need to make different colors, different prices, outside of general greed. If there is an item you like in the shop, but you don't like the color, you can't buy some dye, toss it onto the item, and make it the color you want. You have to wait and hope that they decide this outfit set needs more colors and make palette swaps of it, so then you have to pay full price to get a new set. When they do this, which only takes a couple of hours, they will then make it an entire Wednesday update. Like, this is an accomplishment. No. Maybe if you've done like 10 different outfits and we're putting in basically 3 color swaps of 10 different outfits, that's 30 new outfits. Then okay, that's an achievement, but just adding 3 new colors to one outfit and on one update? No. There is no set color palette for the game, so it's almost impossible to match colors, even blacks and browns, in this game to make coherent outfits from different outfit sets, which I am going to do a video about this, I swear. This is a huge MMO problem. They put out every horse with an individual UV texture map with the shadows and markings, and while they don't do horse clipping outside the Rune Runner, so it's all pre-selected. So you can't buy the horse, then go somewhere and change the coat color or the marking patterns, or remove the markings if you don't like them. And man, that's frustrating because they seem to have some very set horse designs for certain colors. And if you don't like those designs, you're stuck. You can end up having over 150 horses in your stable because you have to buy that horse in every color if you want that horse to be different colors. You can't just change it by working for dye or in-game currency or whatever. Even the free Family Horse Simulator 3D lets me change my horse coat colors, okay? The NPCs are often twins or triplets or worse. Every stable manager is the exact same color swapped NPC. Nathalie is the only POC in these NPCs. I mean, to an extent, I am okay with it. To an extent, if like these NPCs were supposed to be having a uniform, so you know who they are at first glance. But Horse Stable Manager isn't exactly someone who needs a uniform. They've never been story important enough to have to stand out. It's just laziness. Come on, at least give them a few different outfits. But the girls doing the horse races or handing out dailies are worse. Next on the list is Uninspired Journey Through Predictable Places. What Josh talks about in the video is that all these games tend to open up in a pretty forest, and this leads eventually to a stone castle with medieval Tudor-style buildings, or maybe you get some Greek and Roman for space. Okay, I was adding the last specific stuff because that's usually what happens. And Star Stable isn't immune here. You open up in a forested area with Tudor-style medieval buildings called Moorland. Well, last time I checked, moors didn't have a great deal of forest. Swamps, yeah, a big steep hill, sure. Broom and heather, yeah, if it's Scotland, you might get some pines, and Dartmoor and Exmoor might have some stands of very twisted, deciduous trees, but, moors, big, open, high spaces covered in gorse. I can't make this up. Then you see a stone castle in the distance that's kind of Cinderella meets the Cotswolds meets medieval castle base, actually. The inside is wrong, but the base is right. But from there, Silverglade is a swap of buildings still from Star Stable seasonal games, and is boring, is the best word I can think of for them. I think Cape West is too. The SEC is a weird Greek revival that matches nothing else. It's just Okay, Star Stable outside of some buildings in Furgrove and Dundle and whatever Pandoria is, doesn't really have a visual identity outside of medieval Europe, just like every other game out there. It's World of Warcraft, without the epic buildings. And no, Dino Valley doesn't count. Most MMOs have snow-covered area. Dundle and Furgrove kind of remind me of How to Train Your Dragon, actually, so I'm not 100% sure how unique that is either. And on top of it, the scale is wrong with the map not being nearly big enough, and things aren't researched properly. Look, Guild Wars is my standard. If you have a zone, I need to be able to run across it on the main way you run in 20 minutes. Thus, by horse, I need to be able to run across it in 20 minutes, not 7. It's not exciting to enter the Golden Hills to find it's just, a fall version of Greendale Forest. And I expect Golden Hills to actually be gold, not red. Digression. You'd think for a girls' game they'd spend more time making it overgrown with roses, cottagecore, than generic Europe TM. And the journey itself is races and fetch quests for the most part. They removed an entire reputation grind section where you close cracks to Pandoria visible on the main map through a minigame, which involved you having to build this energy vacuum, and actually that was a pretty interesting section of the game. So they removed part of their game where you actually accomplish something, building a machine and closing the cracks, in favor of soul writing. So they took out visual progression of the main map, cracks versus no cracks, for something without any visual progression at all to the main map. Soul writing is like this instance things that appear and disappear only when you do the quest. The cracks were there until you hit admired with the one faction. You had to close them, or there was magenta light jutting up everywhere. It was pretty cool. Their excuse for taking it out was, it was confusing. No, it wouldn't have been confusing if you'd actually continued the story with it, rather than ignoring it for 5 years. Yeah, no wonder players were confused. There didn't seem to be any importance to these cracks and reputation factions. Content is important. Apparently, the new crest put out to save Fripp reused the mechanics from soul writing. Now, this wouldn't have been bad, really, if they put in these quests like, the same time they put in soul writing in 2020. Instead, players have endured 112 days of herding manta rays and collecting energy orbs and running into machines or portals or just collecting the orbs for no plot reason. Soul writing has been in the game a year now. And so when new story comes out that uses these game mechanics instead of being new and exciting, it feels lazy because, look, it's the grind stuff. This is not the game dev's fault, okay? They do have some technical limitations with their 12-year-old engine, and they are not in charge of the release schedule. Maybe this was supposed to come out in 2020 when Soul Writing did, and then there was a new management, and they canceled that release, like they canceled housing, and the tried the horse feature, and the nail salon. It doesn't help that the grind stuff they put in lately, such as crafting and the recycle horse, yes, I said that, of collecting flowers and trash and finding butterflies, spiders, donkeys, and taking photographs of stuffed animals, is the easiest type of thing to program into a game. They opened with this one type of exploratory grind, the stars. Remember the stars? Well, 6 more grind quests like stars later, it's lazy. Plus, taking out quests and minigames and decorating quests and minigames and then making the new minigames grind in the holidays. Yes, minigames, that's grind. You wouldn't think it was possible, but then not putting these minigames into the actual story? Well, what's the point of having these mechanics available then? We know it is possible to add new map and story. They added new map and like 20 minutes of story and grind in 4 months, then 40 more minutes of story 2 months after? And then have the gall to have the ambassadors go, should this one reputation group have grind to match the other reputation groups in the area when everyone is almost done with the grinding reputation already? You have to ask? Like, come on, this is pretty obvious. Yes, let us grind reputation at the same rate as breed across all 3 dang reputation groups in this out-of-the-way spot. Don't make me come here more than I have to. Jeez. And then let's add on to here that there are numerical increases without mechanical change. This means you gain levels in the game and nothing changes in how the game acts as you play, which, as I pointed out, makes the game less enjoyable. Because Star Stable's stat system is pretty much non-existent, and the numbers appear to be there to look good rather than mean anything, when you level up in Star Stable, whether it's your horse or your character, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to notice any difference in game mechanics or how the horse moves in response. In fact, there are times I have leveled up a horse and it starts working worse than it had before. Like, you were at that sweet spot of the horse responding at a lower level, and now it doesn't stop fast enough, jumps too high or too long, and can't take a turn worth of shit. And without combat, your character has no visible way of showing, oh, I run faster, do more damage, whatever, through numbers on the screen. Though there's nothing to see here when you level up. Not that you can control your stats when you level up anyways. The mechanics for racings are just go fast, hit space to jump, make it before time runs out. There's no challenge. They've taken out the endurance mechanic, so you don't even have to manage your horse's stamina. Even the Asset Flip free-to-play Horse Family Simulator 3D, again, which is pretty decent for a game with only a couple hours of content, has a horse stamina mechanic. Star Stable Seasonal Rider games had a horse stamina mechanic. There are no bonding mechanics. Your horse can't learn dressage moves or to drift. There's no reason to have levels in this game, because unless you have a level 1 horse racing against a level 8 horse or so, you aren't really going to see a difference as a player in the speed or response of the horse, and some of that, yes, can be mitigated by equipping the highest level of gear. Like, if you put a level 1 horse in the shoes with the +3 on everything in the high stat racing gear, which there's a lot of it in the game to choose from, you can actually make it act like a horse that's 2 or 3, if not 4 levels higher. But it's so easy to get to a level 5 or 6 on the first day grinding races because they have so many races in this game. So the low levels of experience might as well be non-existent. Like, you get to level 2 after 200 XP, and that's one race. So there's absolutely no balance of stats in this game. Everything is geared towards go faster, since they haven't even really put dressage in the game or Western equitation in a way that's realistic. What they've put it in for is slalom, but let's call it pole bending, 2 barrel races in the same pattern, and some Western equitation that might as well be called show jumping. Their Western Star Stable summer game was actually closer to Western equitation than what they've got now. Now, if the game engine was the same engine they used for the seasonal games, then there really should be no excuse here. They could put back in everything they had, but I'm not sure it is. The game devs have said to the players there are things they can't do due to technical limitations, and I'm not sure if racing mechanics are part of this, or if they've just dragged them out because they want to hit children ages 8 and are making it easy. It's lazy, it's boring, just put in some mechanics and balance your game. Okay, actually make it fun and enjoyable and challenging to play, because right now it's pretty boring. Last thing on the list is time gating, which means game throttling and grind, which Star Stable is guilty of to the extreme. Remember I said earlier that they had 300 hours maybe worth of gameplay and 294 of it is side quests and grind, and that gameplay is actually throttled by game clocks. You have to come back after the server soft reset to play over 3 to 4 months. So, if you play 2.5 hours a day for 3 to 4 months, you've gotten through the entire game they've made over the last 10 years. Plus, they also throttle the game by putting in reputation factions, so you can't advance story without doing daily grind quests to get up to reputation points to continue, which can take days, depending on how many reputation points each daily grind quest gives you. And it's not the same every day either. Doesn't seem right, does it? Especially since this is a game without combat. There are no classes to balance, no combat animations to make pretty with protocol effects. Nada. Time gate throttling with clocks and grind are methods used to hide the fact the game lacks actual content, aka story, which, given we've got less than 1/5 of the total map that's only been proposed and not official, and it took 5 years to rescue the actual main male character in a female-targeted demo game, of the game from being kidnapped, which was a storyline when the game opened. They tend to put in roughly half an hour of story to a storyline every 2 years, hitting a different storyline every other year, which means we're missing an update to the Herman Jarlheim Old Hillcrest storyline, or even the Rescue New Hillcrest Stable storyline. That should have come in 2020 and didn't. So we saved Justin in 2017 and then saved again in 2019, and now we're waking up Fripp in 2021, and each of these main story quests took maybe half an hour. But we've gotten 6 new types of grind since 2019. Isn't that fun? I've put forth in a previous video that they don't know where the story is going anymore and it's being decided by committee, and I've heard a rumor there is a writing room of 2 people, which if you're very ideas-oriented people, that's enough. But apparently, someone cannot get off the pot and make a decision here. The players have come up with more story ideas in fanon lore than the canon has given us ever, and since you can't replay this game, it's really hard to know what is canon, and because they take quests out, your canon experience might not be the current canon experience. Isn't that great? No. So, because they don't have any competition whatsoever, they don't feel the urge or need to finish their story or even continue it in a substantial manner, because where are these girls who want to play a big open world horse game with a lot to explore and have adventures in a big story going to go? They don't have to add good game mechanics or build systems so we can customize shit or replay the game without paying for it again because there's no other game. Yet. If companies would start competing for the dollars of teenage girls the same way they compete for the dollars of teenage boys, Star Stable would be forced to up their game or even remaster it, and stop being lazy. Towards the end of the video, Asmongold makes a picture in paint and explains what the different types of players wants and how the developers of New World are focusing on what, say, 5% of the players want, the endgame PvP with the cool armor, versus 95% of what the players want by putting in these pay-to-win items in their cash store. Now here's the thing. Star Stable doesn't care about either of those. There is no PvP. There is no pay-to-win. There is no best gear in the game. And then, as I've pointed out, there is no leveling or endgame to the story or professions or anything typical of an MMORPG. All Star Stable Entertainment higher-ups care about is the whales buying horses. The cash shop is ruining the game. And it sucks. Because there is no other non-combat horse open world MMO out there. It really sucks that the higher-ups don't care at all about making the game interesting, challenging, fun, or sustainable long-term. Star Stable is stringing players along to keep them on the servers with grind in hopes they'll give into peer pressure to buy premium currency to get useless to the game cosmetic horses. There is a good story here, that is, if they could decide on one, and didn't keep having the characters get kidnapped and let the player actually be the main character. There's something to this world of Jorvik. If there wasn't, you wouldn't have so many players, 30 million of them, making accounts only for 5% of them to stick around due to, I don't know, stubbornness? No place else to go? Hope it will get better as it has steadily gotten worse? Asmongold concludes by saying, playing the game and having fun with it is a success metric of the game. And as the years have gone by, I, as a player, have had less and less fun, and been more and more frustrated by the choices being made by Star Stable Entertainment higher-ups who won't even bother to let the game devs have the tools they need to make a game that has actual mechanics that make sense and story that comes out on a regular basis in big chunks. More than half an hour a year. Come on, guys. Look, an entire game of fetch quests or races when your game has no combat or minigame mechanics to those races as a challenge means the game is as boring as all get out. Oh, this again. If you're going to put in new mechanics, you have to capitalize on those mechanics story-wise right away before they become just as boring as everything else. Doing those mechanics over 3 months, every day, makes them really old, really fast. Especially when most of them are run around in circles like a chicken with your head cut off. In conclusion, the MMORPG industry is having a problem, and Star Stable, of all the games, is that problem taken to the extreme. And by extreme, I mean extremely bad. The higher-ups are being lazy and greedy and encouraging player rage by focusing entirely on the cash shop of cosmetics and horses. And if you're a game dev like myself who wants to create a game that is open-world MMORPG and targeted at girls, it's still useful to listen to streamers of mainstream RPGs because even if they wouldn't play our non-combat game, they can still tell you really important things about how players enjoy games and what they want to see, which isn't Star Stable's execution. Yes, for your information, my non-combat horse game has professions, factions, riding disciplines, horses that will have different stats, customization options out the arse, housing, and life skills like farming and crafting, and hopefully bonding skills to your horse, and some skills trees. Oh, and magic. Magic is big. The story revolves around the magic. It's thanks to these streamers who can put into words sometimes things I can't, or since I'm not really paying attention to combat MMOs, don't have the information to do so, that makes me think about things for Mystic Riders, about how can we make the game fun and have visual progression and be challenging all without having combat, and how to build a modular housing and character type system so while we have NPCs in the game, they don't have to be twins, triplets, etc. of each other, and still the player can see the item, or hairstyle, or something about the houses, and they can duplicate it for themselves on their character or on their house. Something to make the game easier to build, but not look like it's just palette swaps laziness. So thanks Asmongold, thanks Josh Strife, The Lazy Peon, MMO Bytes, and Skylant Games. You definitely make my life easier by putting out information I need to think about and consider even if I don't always agree with your opinions. That's fine, that's how it works. Thank you for listening to me ramble. If you're interested in Mystic Riders MMORPG project, I'll put a link in the description below. It's a passion project and we're always interested in people who can be passionate about it with us. Take care of yourself, bless, stay safe, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.